Hey, what's going on, you guys? Hey, welcome back to another episode with Trek. A big shout out to everybody that's been tapping in all this year, even though we're only about like 8 or 9 days in, man. I appreciate you guys. Per usual, we're taking a look at all the most interesting and strange things that's been happening lately. And but before we do that, man, let's make sure we run this channel up this year, man. All 2026, we're gonna try to take it to new heights. So make sure to smash that like button for me, smash that subscribe button, and let's go ahead and get right into it.
This morning, the federal food pyramid that informed a generation has been flipped on its head. The Trump administration rolling out new guidelines it says will make America healthier. Among the changes, putting meats and dairy products up top alongside fruits and vegetables. The recommendations expressly encouraging Americans to limit added sugars and avoid ultra-processed foods like chips and cookies. They also say people should opt for full-fat rather than low-fat dairy products. Perhaps the most significant shift, that protein be prioritized at every meal and suggesting people double their daily recommended intake.
And they might as well come out with those hats that say "Make America Thin Again." You know what I mean? Because we've been down eating all kinds of processed foods this and processed foods that, and now they're giving us a chance at actually being healthy. I like that. But to be honest, I think it was pretty obvious that the original food pyramid was kind of off.
Tesla has $800 million worth of Cybertrucks that nobody wants to buy. Reports show there's around 10,000 Cybertrucks sitting across lots in the United States untouched versus their ambitious goal of producing 250,000 every single year. And now, since no one wants to buy a Cybertruck, Tesla has scaled back heavily on production.
I guess since Elon's doing so well, maybe he should start giving them away. Let me know what you think.
Alcohol was created to slow humanity down. I think there's an untold amount of things invented to slow humanity down. We're going too quick right now. And I don't think whatever's in control of humanity, if it's a computer program or some creepy fucking dudes in castles with their fingers on buttons, either way, we're going too quick and something's going to have to slow it down.
You're gonna think I'm crazy for saying this, because I've already said there's witches, wizards, and warlocks out here. But there's people out here that you walk by every day that have a 401k, have human skin, but there's no soul underneath the skin. They're possessed by inhuman things.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, and you kind of know it too. You know, we're not here alone, and there's a lot of strange stuff happening. A lot of people practicing this type of magic and that type of magic.
Here's some fucked up psychological facts about the human brain that are going to piss you off. Especially number 3. Number 1, the more intelligent you are, the more prone you are to anxiety and self-doubt. Highly intelligent people are constantly analyzing all possible scenarios, especially the negative ones. So the same mental depth that can drive insight and brilliance is also the same mental depth that can intensify regret and fear. Number 2, most decisions are made emotionally, then justified logically. People like to think they act rationally, but the reality is emotions lead the way. Simply put, emotions are faster than your logic. This is why most people argue like shit and very rarely change anybody's mind. Number 3, the brain can bond with those who fuck it up. Trauma bonding occurs when pain and affection are mixed. The nervous system actually gets addicted to the highs and lows. This is oftentimes why people stay in toxic relationships, even when their logic demands that they leave. You see, pain feels familiar, and familiarity feels safe.
Plasma, the fourth state of matter that in school they didn't teach us about for some reason. There's gas, liquid, solid, right? The 3 states, no, there's 4, and the 4th one is plasma, which I would describe imperfectly as like if you heat up gas till it's like the steam of steam or something. Plasma, the 4th state of matter. That's what everything has to do with. And that
isn't it like 90-something% of the universe?
Oh, why would I not learn that in school when I learned the other things? Because they didn't want you looking into it.
Plasma makes up about 99% or more of the visible ordinary matter in the universe. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
So nearly all the stuff that is not dark matter or dark energy is in a plasma state.
So you could make I bet you could make a really cool AI with plasma if you knew how to manipulate it right.
That is a crazy statement.
Yeah, they left that out among so many other things that would have made us a lot smarter, go a lot farther, and definitely not set us up just to be employees. We know it.
CIA taught me to survive and thrive in prison. Some of them were tongue-in-cheek, like admit nothing, deny everything, make counter-accusations. We even had coffee cups that said that. And I actually employed that in prison. Not with prisoners, but with these morons who were the guards. I'm standing at the computer one day, and these two guys start duking it out, like blood flying, and I'm just sitting there. Well, they can see on the camera, so as soon as the fight ends, I hear, "Kiriakou, Lieutenant's office, immediately!" So I walk down in the Lieutenant's office, and I go, "What? Why don't you tell us about the fight?" I go, "What fight?" "Oh, you're gonna be a wise guy. I don't know what you're talking about. The fight that was 3 feet away from you in the day room? There was a fight? Very funny. We saw you on the camera, just standing there. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think there was a fight. Actually, I think I would have noticed if there was a fight." "Oh, there was a fight." I go, "Yeah? Why don't you tell me about the fight, since you seem to know so much about it?" And they were like, "Get the out of my office." And then I went back, and everybody's like, "You didn't go to solitary." I said, "They're too stupid to send me to solitary."
I mean, they knew that he saw it, but they just pick and choose their battles just like he does.
Did an orb just send us a message? That's the question coming out of a new video from Chris Bledsoe, someone who's been documenting recurring orb encounters for more than a decade, and he believes these objects appear intentionally around him. The latest encounter happened in December at Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, and this one stood out, not because of the orb itself, but because of what showed up inside it. In a single still frame pulled from the 4K footage, strange markings appear briefly inside the orb, shapes that look like numbers, symbols, or some kind of structured pattern. Bledsoe believes it could be a form of communication. What it means, he says, isn't clear, and that's why this moment is blowing up. If this were intentional, it would be one of the first times an orb appears to display internal structure that feels deliberate, not random. Many in the UFO community are drawing comparisons to other controversial objects, like the Buga sphere, which some claim shows symbols or responds to external stimuli, though those claims remain unverified and heavily debated. Others say this could be image artifacting, compression, or pareidolia, the brain finding patterns where none exist. So right now, there's no consensus, but here's why people are paying attention. Orbs have been reported for decades by pilots, military personnel, and civilians, and they often behave differently than traditional craft. If an orb ever were trying to communicate, is this what the first attempt might look like? That's open to interpretation. So the real question isn't what the message says, it's whether there's a message at all. And if there is, who or what is sending it?
Toxic people are trying to get things. They're not being toxic for no reason. They're gaining something out of how they operate. That's why they operate like that, because they get something. As soon as you find that out, you'll be able to cut off what they get, and they will leave.
Hey, Cat Williams is dropping gems. Pure gems. This is how you get rid of energy vampires. Point blank, period.
If I told you that science is showing how a blind man can see, not with his eyes, but with his mind. And scientists are shocked at these results, suggesting that our vision extends beyond our eyes. Renowned neuroscientist Dr. Alex Gomez Marin studied what most scientists would not touch at all. His research investigated a 49-year-old man who was declared medically blind for over 8 years, but was able to see things without his eyes. This is what's called extraocular vision, which is the ability to pick up visual information without using the eyes. In this experiment, the man wore a medical-grade blindfold, and scientists double-checked using infrared sensors to make sure no light gets in. And being blind and completely blindfolded, he was shown flashcards where he quickly called out shapes, colors, pictures without hesitation, and his answers were correct over 90% of the time. This early data adds to the growing evidence behind human extrasensory perception, things such as telepathy, precognition, clairvoyance, all saying that we can pick up information without physical mechanisms. Key takeaway here is that if seeing is believing, then science is now
Here, Netflix is starting their own record label. So now you're going to start seeing content where they're going to do exclusivity deals with artists who nobody owns a share of. Nobody. Not the majors, no one. Maybe not even management or publishers. And they're going to go, let's give Justin $100 million. We want you to do the next 3 albums. We want your live concert. We want all the behind the scenes of the songwriters writing the songs. We want all the content. We are going to obliterate what is presented as music. That's the Blue Ocean strategy, one of them coming.
If I'm not mistaken, this sounds like a W for all the independent artists.
Yes, he told me I should stop cursing. He said, if you want to be in this business for a long time, you can stop that cursing. And he said, you think you got $1 million? I said, yeah, I do. He said, you ain't got no $1 million. He said, if you do got $1 million, you take it and you bury it in the woods. And I said, why bury my money in the woods? He said, because if the government will take it from you, so bury it. And I was like, but can't the government take your land? And he said, but they won't know where the money is. That's a true story. So that's the kind of advice I used to get.
Hey, God bless James Brown, man. He was just trying to sprinkle some gems on Eddie Murphy, but sound just a little bit outdated, you know what I mean? But hey, God bless him anyway.
Edward Scissorhands looks like a fairy tale, but it's actually a warning. Edward isn't dangerous. He's gentle, caring, and he's just trying to belong. The problem isn't him in this movie. It's the neighborhood deciding that he's only welcome if he's useful to them. At first, everybody loves Edward. He can trim hair, trim hedges, entertain the people. He fits in when he provides something. The moment he makes people uncomfortable, the tone changes. The same neighbors who praised him start treating him like a threat. Nothing about Edward changes. Their expectations of Edward changes. That's what the movie is really about. Society celebrates uniqueness until it stops being convenient. Then it gets labeled as dangerous. So ask yourself this: if Edward came to your neighborhood, do you think he would be welcomed with open arms, or do you think he would be shut out, or do you think people would try to use him for their benefit?
I think in today's time, Edward wouldn't last too long, sadly. I think too many people might call him the Antichrist, a demon, among other things. I just don't think he would last too long. But if you think he would, definitely drop it in the comments and let me know why.
There is one person in history who I'm convinced is a time traveler, and it is the man who made this, because this is not a video game. This is a painting from 1965. His name was Alex Colville, and there's no way he did not travel to the future, look at a PS2 video game, and then come back and paint this. He painted this in 1954, before a computer had ever rendered anything. I really like his paintings. They have this uneasy quality to them. He served in World War II with distinction, and I just can't help but feel that he found a time machine there. Look at him. That is the face of a man who has been to the future and is trying desperately to hide it. Look in those eyes. It's weird. No matter how long I look at this for, I know it's a painting, but my brain can't accept that it's a painting. My brain just sees digital. It's just so weird how our eyes and brain work in that way.
Google just dropped Anti-Gravity, a new AI coding platform, and it's completely free. It's a workflow editor powered by Gemini 3 to bring your app ideas to life. Multiple AI agents work together simultaneously to plan your project, write the code, but here's what makes it different. It has a browser mode where the AI actually opens your app, clicks through everything like a real user, and then if it finds any bugs, the agent will actually fix it without you needing to do anything at all. Plus, you're not limited to Gemini. You can switch between Claude or ChatGPT too, depending on your project. So if you would like to try it yourself, you can do so by heading over to here.
In about 5 years, the people that embrace this kind of technology will be the ones that are winning, and that's a fact.
Wow. Do y'all remember 1 month ago when this video popped up with the reptile man from Google Earth? Well, I can prove to you 100% fact that it is real. First, we'll speed through that video again, and then I'll show you. Well, I went to find it myself, and it won't even let you click where was visible before. Watch, I'm trying to click on that second top blue dot, even under that. There are tons of reasons they don't want us to go to Antarctica, and this is one of them.
How did moon photos appear in newspapers the very next morning if Apollo astronauts were nearly 250,000 miles away, if signals had to travel space, oceans, labs, and printing presses? How did everything line up overnight? And if this was the greatest journey ever, why did the pictures feel instantly ordinary? In 1969, photos weren't texts. Cameras used film. Film had to be handled, processed, selected, captioned, transmitted, edited, laid out, printed, bundled, and delivered. That's dark rooms, chemicals, drying racks, scanners, cables, editors, deadlines, and massive printing machines. Yet headlines showed clear lunar images the very next day. No delays, no developing soon, just done. So here's the pause. Maybe the tech was incredible, or maybe the story we imagine skips steps. Questioning the timeline doesn't attack science. It checks the workflow. When you slow it down, you notice how many human hands and machines were required, all working perfectly with zero margin for error across continents overnight. Think about radio rooms, buzzing antennas, turning oceans crossed by undersea cables, film labs, glowing red editors, racing clocks, presses, shaking buildings at dawn. Now ask, was every image sent live, or were some prepared earlier? Were newspapers reacting or receiving? On a flat, level world, short paths and centralized control feel simpler. On a spinning globe with vast distances, the speed feels almost magical. Picture forklifts, moving paper rolls, ink tanks, filling clocks on newsroom walls, hitting midnight delivery trucks, warming engines, kids on bikes tossing papers at sunrise. All of that happened fast, so fast that it raises eyebrows, not fists. When systems move that smoothly, it usually means rehearsal. Live events are messy, rehearsed ones are clean. That doesn't prove anything, but it invites curiosity. Why do we remember the triumph, yet forget the process?
And I guarantee you people at that time never questioned it. He raised an absolutely great question. If this was in the newspapers the very next day, at that time they didn't have that kind of technology to make it happen.
What you're looking at right here, Francesco Chiarolo.
In 1939, doctors began splitting living human brains in half in order to treat severe forms of epilepsy. If that wasn't weird enough, no one was prepared for what happened next. The surgeries didn't only cure the patient's epilepsy, but fundamentally upended our understanding of human consciousness. In fact, many neuroscientists point to the experiments that came after these surgeries as evidence that there's not just one you living inside your brain, but potentially dozens or hundreds of different yous always competing for control of your body. Now, that may sound, well, frankly insane, but before you flip to the next video in your queue, there's someone that I want you to meet. This is Joe. 7 years before this was shot for Scientific American Frontiers, surgeons cut the corpus callosum that connects the two sides of his brain.
Hemisphere and right hemisphere now are working independent of each other, but
the corpus callosum is the brain's information superhighway. It transfers an immense amount of information every second and unifies the brain into a single coherent structure. In most cases, this is exactly what we want to happen. But when Joe had epileptic seizures, a rumble that began on one side of the brain could quickly travel through his entire brain over the corpus callosum and result in a dangerous condition called a grand mal seizure. Severing it made his symptoms much better. But more importantly, for our purposes today, it also gave scientists a unique opportunity to study how the two halves of a human brain operate independently from one another. It was time to experiment.
Hey, he was just a few slices short of a lobotomy. That's way too close to comfort. But if they fixed what was wrong with him, I guess it's a W for him.
If people want to know about the mark of the beast, I'll tell you, it's a sore. It's a massive boil, like whenever it reacts to the skin. It looked like a burn mark. It popped up like a boil on his hand, on whoever's hand they get it, and there's a black circle around that sore. And it looks like it's oozy, even the one on the forehead. And like I said, it doesn't happen to everybody who got the mark. It only happened to certain people. It's like it had a reaction with somebody's chemistry in their body. And so it's very small. It's about, it's like that big, and it's about that wide, and it's very thin. It's a little square. It's not a grain of rice. It's a little square chip thing. And whenever it's injected into your body, it messes with your mind. It creates a signal to calm you down. It alters your personality. I do not know how it does this, but it sends waves to your brain and causes you to be calm or like a zombie state. It's very weird.
I'll say it once and I'll say it again. It's always in the movies. Now, there's been a ton of talk lately from the White House about Trump purchasing Greenland and making it the 51st state of America. Now, reason being, he said it's for national security because of growing tensions from foreign entities. But let's not forget that Greenland has 25 of the 34 minerals that are deemed critical raw materials, which include copper, diamond, gold, graphite, iron ore, nickel, just to name a few. But here's where it gets weird. Can anybody tell me why there is a movie coming out on January 9th called Greenland? And if you guys notice on the movie posters, it has these 4 cities: Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, and Chicago. Now, what is this movie about? So this was a sequel to part 1 that came out in 2020, and it reads, in the aftermath of a comet that decimates most of the planet, the Garrity family must leave the safety of their Greenland bunker to traverse a shattered world in search of a new home. So we're talking about bunkers and national security. This is all starting to make sense, but it gets even weirder, you guys. So it's not just the movies, it's the video games as well. So this game called Call of Duty Ghosts comes out in 2013, right? Now, what is this game about? So this game takes place in 2026, where a special unit called Ghosts goes to Caracas, Venezuela to capture a dictator. Now, this game came out in November of 2013, which is the same year that Maduro took power. Now, if that's not weird enough for you, right before Maduro gets caught on January 3rd, the co-founder of Call of Duty dies in a car crash December 21st. But wait, hold up. So you mean to tell me the co-founder of Call of Duty dies, then 13 days later Maduro gets caught, in which the game is about him getting caught, and the game comes out on a 13th year, he takes power on a 13th year, and the founder becomes literally a ghost? What? Simulation complete. I have no idea what to make of all this, but make sure you guys hit up my YouTube, The Maverick Approach, and let me know what you guys think about all this down below.
We are living in the age of information, man. I've said it a million times. People are investigating and updating. So one of the creators of that video game dies in a car accident. That was all over the news. We can see that he lost control of his supercar, and that was a wrap for him. Then we see the president of Venezuela get captured. But can you imagine all this was just a premonition in that video game? That's wild.
This technology is going to blow your mind. This procedure is called a rotationplasty, where they remove a section of the bone, including the knee, and attach the foot backwards on the upper part of the leg. This is for those particularly with cancer who have to have their knee removed. By attaching the foot in this way, they make the ankle their new knee. This way, when they attach the prosthetic, the person can flex their foot and actually bend their knee. Because the nerves are still attached, with some practice, they can get back near full mobility with this technique. So cool to see.
By 2007, there's going to be an AI system that's running the world as a government. And it's going to be based off not Christianity, not Islam, but based off numerology and astrology. So the AI that's going to be running this world in 2070, 2060s, it's going to be a one world government under AI, and that's going to be based off numerology and astrology. That is a promise I have to everyone who's going to be watching this in 50 years. That's what's going to happen. That is the end game.
Now, the wild thing about that GG33 guy is that all of his predictions, if you will, are not even really predictions. He's just using numerology, which is basically just using the information that's already given. So it's interesting when he says certain things like that, because he's made predictions in the past that have come to pass that he wouldn't have known beforehand, you know? So these types of things you always want to keep your eye on and just kind of pay attention to them.
Fun fact of the day. The world's longest fence is the Australian dingo fence. Finished in 1885, the dingo fence stretches 5,614 kilometers and keeps dingoes out of the fertile southeastern part of the continent.
People think Einstein was a genius because he was good at math, but there were plenty of scientists during his time that were expert mathematicians. Instead, what set Einstein apart is what the cognitive scientist Robert Sternberg calls creative intelligence. You see, Einstein's superpower was his ability to reframe problems. While everyone else worked inside the accepted assumptions about space and time, Einstein questioned the assumptions themselves. He used thought experiments, like imagining himself riding a beam of light, imagining clocks in motion, to explore consequences nobody else could see. Creative intelligence, you see, isn't randomness. It's structured exploration. It's the ability to generate ideas that are both novel and useful by changing how a problem is represented. And you can train it. For instance, take a problem you're working on and rewrite it in 3 different ways. Change the goal, the constraints, or the framing. You might not be able to become Einstein, but you can become someone people consistently look to for solutions.
Really interesting school, I believe it's called the Alpha School in Austin, Texas, that was co-designed or created by Elon Musk. It's fascinating. It's about 2 hours a day. You progress on the subject for however long it takes you. It has AI enablement behind it. If you progress, the AI gets more intelligent alongside you, and then for the rest of the day, you're allowed to work on the things you want to work on.
That sounds amazing.
I think schools will be like that in the future.
I hope so, but it's tough with all the politics behind it.
I think this traditional way of schooling will definitely be around, but I think there will be alternatives that are way, way better for the people that can afford it. I think that's pretty much how it's going to look like.
Down in Antarctica, at the bottom of the world, there's a giant machine buried nearly 3 times deeper than the tallest building, where scientists dug 86 boreholes, and then they dropped in over 5,000 special detectors. So now they all sit frozen in Antarctic ice, waiting for ghost particles from somewhere in space. They are unthinkably small, much smaller than an electron, but they almost never interact with stuff, so you don't feel them. We know that they're there because on rare occasions one bumps into an atom, and these special detectors can amplify those interactions from deep in the ice, where they're shielded from other things that might bump into atoms, like Earth's radiation. These detectors sit silent, but then about once a month, something sets them off, creating a chain reaction of light that alerts scientists to point their telescopes in that direction, revealing violent cosmic events over there, like an eruption from a supermassive black hole. But now they're hoping to find something bigger. To find out what, follow along.
All the signs suggest that we're going to have a big war soon. The president announced that he is hiking the Pentagon budget from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. Just announced that. That's the kind of budget that a country that anticipates a global or regional war has for its military. Obviously, we're moving in that direction toward a world war. Sorry. So how do you position yourself for that? Well, you look at a map and you ask, what areas do I want to control? Where are the trade routes? Who's got the resources? And if you were to do that, you would arrive at the most obvious conclusion of all, which is the United States has to have a relationship with Russia in order to survive anything like that.
Morbid Facts, Part 863. Renowned actress Natalie Wood died in November of 1981 at age 43 after drowning off the coast of California during a weekend boat trip with her husband Robert Wagner and co-star Christopher Walken. She had gone missing from their yacht Splendor sometime during the night and was later found floating in the water wearing a nightgown, socks, and a down jacket. The initial investigation ruled her death an accidental drowning, suggesting she had slipped while trying to secure a loose dinghy, despite Wood's well-known fear of dark water and inability to swim. An autopsy revealed brutal bruises on her body in the presence of alcohol and pain medication, raising questions about whether she was impaired or injured before entering the water. Conflicting accounts from Wagner and Walken, reports of a heated argument earlier that night, and later statements from the boat's captain alleging Wagner delayed calling for help fueled decades of suspicion. 30 years later, in 2011, authorities officially reopened the case, and in 2012, Wood's death certificate was amended to drowning and other undetermined factors. In 2018, Wagner was named a person of interest, though no official charges have ever been filed, leaving one of Hollywood's most infamous deaths officially unresolved.
Yeah, that's how you know they're not playing with him. 30 years later, they want to come back and say, we think you had something to do with it. That's crazy.
If we share out the benefits of the increase in productivity, it'll be great for everybody. So one example now already, if you get a full body MRI scan every year and you get AI to interpret it, basically you don't need to die of cancer anymore. You can detect almost all cancers when they're very small. And if you can detect them at stage one, you can normally just get rid of them. So Craig Venter, who was one of the people who sequenced the human genome, had full-body MRI and detected 2 very aggressive prostate cancers, much like Biden may have now, very early, and was fine. So with AI doing the interpretation and doing better interpretation than people can do, we'll get things like that that'll basically get rid of people dying of cancer if you can afford the full-body MRI.
Did you know that if you apply electricity and magnetism to mercury, it actually causes the mercury to spin? And then because of its spinning, it creates a vortex, and that vortex emanates its own electromagnetic field. But that's not even the craziest part. If you take mercury, attach it to an antenna, and then venture off deep into the woods of Siberia, guess what? You can flip through channels and watch your SpongeBob. Because mercury has the amazing ability to receive and transmit electromagnetic waves. So this explains why Mercury, in the ancient myths, can travel super fast, like Quicksilver in X-Men, which is another name for Mercury. Because you can instantaneously communicate with the higher realms, aka the electromagnetic field, through Mercury. So this is why Mercury is the messenger of the gods. And all of the depictions of Hermes or Mercury, he's holding a caduceus. It's 2 snakes vortexing up a staff. Isn't that interesting? And it's not like a conspiracy theory, because we used to literally use mercury in lighthouses. We would suspend the lights in mercury so that the light would constantly spin 24/7 instead of someone having to sit there and crank it all of the time. So this makes you wonder, is mercury so demonized in today's world because we used to use it to communicate with the higher realms, to transmit energy for free instead of having to constantly pay for it and slave away for the rest of our lives? You see what I'm saying? The Earth is literally a giant torus field, but I made everything up. This was for entertainment purposes only.
A fabrication technique known as morph, scientists created a soft, robotic spider on a millimeter scale. The robot is built from layers of silicone sheets that use microfluidic origami and display colored patterns. The system is a research prototype intended for use in confined spaces and medicine in the future.
I'm going to sound like a broken record for some, but I don't think people realize who and what we're dealing with here. And if you don't know what the CIA is, it's a talent agency that manages anyone from LeBron James to Dolly Parton to Matt Rife to Beyonce. The 2 largest stakeholders of the CIA are Henry Pennell and Salma Hayek. But that's not all they own. They own French football clubs, they own historic French wine estates and multiple vineyards. They have a very extensive art collection. We'll get there. And a portfolio of luxury brands, one of them specifically being Kering, which umbrellas all the brands the elites basically wear: Gucci, Saint Laurent, Balenciaga. The family also owns the French news magazine Le Point. Talk about controlling the narrative. They also own a website called Christie's Auction House, which this is what it looks like when opening their website. Looks very rich, looks very 1% looks very elite. However, when you go to the search bar and you type in Jake and Dinos Chapman, you begin to find some very disturbing art, some referencing cannibalism, some referencing children with human parts on their face. In fact, some of it is so explicit that it's not available in my region. There are multiple questionable pieces of art on this website that are extremely concerning. Statues of children running through the woods, some with 2 heads, some with 4 heads, again with body parts on their faces. There's a bunch of pictures and references of witchcraft. Let's just say some of this artwork kind of mirrored what Salma Hayek dressed up as for Halloween not that long ago. It's just pretend, right? Right. It's just pretend. We know Salma Hayek and Kim Kardashian are close. Even after the Balenciaga scandal, Kim K still never wavered her loyalty to Salma. In fact, you know that $5 million Basquiat painting that was accidentally leaked by Kris Jenner? It's actually alleged that Christie's auction house was where she purchased the painting back in 2017. Here is the said painting that Kim purchased for around $5 million. And by the way, this is the same night they had Ariana Grande over for that Wicked premiere sleepover party. And it's just interesting with what they claim Basquiat and his art was capable of and what has happened to Ariana Grande since taking the role of Glinda. It really makes me wonder what is happening to these celebrities.
It still blows my mind how the whole Balenciaga thing blew over so quickly. You know, and then to see who's tied to it, no real repercussions. Very interesting.
This is how sewage water is recycled. All this brown color is exactly what you think it is. But since water is only limited on Earth, factories take it in to purify it from the waste. The water then ends up in your Dasani water bottle, which you happily drink. And the solid pieces here end up as fertilizer.
Hey, purified water really is garbage.
There's no such thing as a safe cell phone. Zero. I even wrote a book called The CIA Insider's Guide to Disappearing and Living Off the Grid. And really the bottom line of the whole book is zero technology. Literally zero technology. No email, no internet, no cell phone. No such thing as a safe cell phone. Zero. I even wrote a book called The CIA Insider's Guide to Disappearing and Living Off the Grid. And really the bottom line of the whole book is zero technology. Literally zero technology. No email, no internet, no cell phone, no regular phone. Caveman times. I mean, you have to go out into the woods of Utah like the Unabomber and live in a cabin. That kind of life.
No car, no.
No. They can take remote control of your car and make you drive off a bridge.
Any car?
Any car that has a computer in it, which is every car. Unless you drive a car from the 60s. That's the only way to keep yourself safe. We know that they can take any smart TV and turn the speaker into a microphone so that it broadcasts what's being said in the room, even while the TV is off.
Bruce Lee was murdered because he was bringing Eastern spirituality into Western scientism. Like, imagine believing that the most disciplined and supreme martial artist of his time would die from a simple headache tablet. The idea is ludicrous. The official reports claiming that he died from a cerebral edema is only a half-truth. He was poisoned. The odds of him dying from that medication is millions to one, even according to the official narrative. They even went to lengths to claim that he died from hashish, or cannabis, which has never happened to this day. In reality, it's probably soft disclosure that his cannabis was laced. He was developing too much influence and he threatened the power structures being put into place. Trouble began to emerge in Hong Kong with the film Enter the Dragon, between Bruce Lee and the Chinese film producers that quote-unquote made him, notably Raymond Chow, who is rumored to be the prime suspect of his death. So the conflict escalated when Bruce Lee accepted the lead role in that film. He was drawn to the way that they portrayed martial arts and the deeper philosophy behind it. He felt called to the US to influence a different outlook of the Eastern world, which he surely has. See, Bruce couldn't be controlled. The triads pressured him to sign exclusive film deals, but he refused. Raymond knew he was losing Bruce to the US studios, thus losing his golden goose. And Bruce was disrupting the power structure of the martial art film industry, and that made him a target. See, he was even planning to create his own film company, using many stuntmen such as Jackie Chan, and that would have eventually dominated both Hollywood and the international box offices. And they couldn't let that happen. So his first collapse would occur in a Hong Kong movie set, likely due to laced hashish, which he used often. And when he went to the hospital, doctors found no cause and gave him a clean bill of health. He then spent months in Hollywood with no issues, but the moment he returned to Hong Kong, he mysteriously dies in the hands of the same producer, Raymond Chow, and Betty Ting. On the day of his death, Betty stated that Bruce wasn't feeling well, so she gave him Equigesic, which is just a combination of meprobamate and aspirin, only for him to never wake up again. So it wasn't just a pill, but a combination of whatever was laced in his cannabis that was fatal. Bruce Lee held many spiritual concepts of self-mastery, free thought, an unlimited human potential that started influencing the Western mindset. But again, they don't want a merging of science, spirit, and mind in a single individual, because if that happens, a person will start asking too many questions they don't want to ask. And if you think his death was an accident, what about his son Brandon Lee? One of the only few people in Hollywood history to be shot and killed on a movie set, despite blanks being used. What are the odds that both father and son would die in such highly unusual, improbable ways? The truth is clear. Whatever the true cause was, Bruce Lee's death was no accident, and neither was his son's Brandon. What should be remembered is how Bruce Lee lived his life is far more important than how he lost it.
Now, I didn't know the full story on Bruce Lee, but apparently he was one of those ones. Him and Bob Marley would have been best friends, I see.
So when you have a refrigerator or a washing machine go ripping across the room, which I've had in cases, we're not dealing with Aunt Betty or Uncle Frankie. We're dealing with something that is evil and very powerful.
6ix9ine just officially turned himself in, and you truly won't believe some of the inmates he will be alongside while in prison. So the exact prison that 6ix9ine just turned himself into was the MDC Brooklyn prison, and as you can see up at the top, here are some of the notable inmates that are inside the prison. You got the president of Venezuela, Luigi Mangione, Diddy, you even have El Chapo in that prison, R. Kelly. I mean, this literally looks fake. Even the lady at the bottom, I believe she was involved with Jeffrey Epstein in some way, shape, or form. The guy up at the top, Sam Bankman, I think he was involved with some crypto scam. I mean, all these people are very notable. It's just unreal that they are all in the same prison together. Like, I guarantee you if they all came together, they could form one great basketball team. That is for sure. 6ix9ine will only be in that prison for, I believe, 3 months or so. So when he gets out, I'm sure he's going to have a lot of stories to tell. That is for sure. And I'm just really curious to know your thoughts about all of this.
So this man says that he works for the royals and the elite families and that they do something that we don't. Listen to this.
The royal families that I've worked with over the years, all around the world, 100% of the time they follow homeopathic medicine, and 100% of the time, like all the billionaires I work with, follow astrology. Astrology and homeopathy. They say that science is for everybody else.
Wow. So he says that the elite families and the royals follow homeopathy, which is natural medicine, while they have all of us in this system following the big pharma medical system, not natural medicine. Also, they say they follow astrology. Now, I find this interesting considering that JP Morgan said millionaires don't follow astrology, billionaires do. What do you guys think about this? Like, comment, follow, drop your comment below.
Them using homeopathy is pretty obvious because they're the ones who are, creating these pharmaceuticals. And as far as the astrology goes, also that's pretty obvious. They're going to feed us everything that they've created themselves. And they're using these other means to direct their life, obviously in a successful way. It's definitely not that big of a surprise.
In the last 48 hours, 3 massive geopolitical events just happened and almost no one's connecting the dots. First, China just issued a direct warning to the United States. They officially stated they will not accept any country acting as a world judge or global policeman. Second, look at the Atlantic. The U.S. has officially seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker. They're calling it a ghost ship used to evade sanctions, but Russia is calling it piracy. We are now actively boarding Russian vessels in open waters. And third, right now, Iran has gone dark. A massive internet blackout is hitting the country as protests erupt nationwide. China's warning us Russia is being intercepted and Iran is disconnected. 3 superpowers, 3 major escalations, all in the same week. Tell me what you think in the comments.
I think that anybody that's in between, like you and me, watching it in the news, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
I can tell you, let me tell you about some of the good things.
Please.
So right now, there's a shortage of doctors and great surgeons. You're a doctor yourself.
Yes.
You know how that it takes a long time for a human to become...
It's ridiculously expensive and long.
Yes. Ridiculous, a super long time to learn to be a good doctor. And even then, the knowledge is constantly evolving. It's hard to keep up with everything. Doctors have limited time. They make mistakes. And you have to say, how many great surgeons are there? Not that many great surgeons.
When do you think Optimus will be a better surgeon
than the best surgeons. How long for that?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, that's
I'd say 3 years at scale.
Yes.
Meaning there'll probably be more Optimus robots that are great surgeons than there are all surgeons on Earth.
And the cost of that is the capex and electricity, and it works in Zimbabwe. The best surgeon is in the villages throughout Africa or any place on the planet.
Yeah, where do you think it'll roll out first? Not the U.S., obviously.
Here at the Gigafactory.
Oh, you just do surgery in the...
But that's an important statement in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
Because medicine, I mean,
I'm not like absolutely certain, but I'd say if you say like 4 years, I'd be absolutely
If it's 4 or 5 years, who cares? It's still an incredible statement to make. I mean, good.
The reason why that's wild and it makes sense is that you can update these robots at any given time. You know, with all the new information or new procedures that surgeons have to learn and take in, it's a simple click of a button, and now that Optimus robot understands exactly what to do and the new methods of how to do it. That is wild.
Be awake during surgery, and they're going to be talking to you while you've got the brain exposed. When we do these surgeries, we numb all the scalp up and all the muscles up so they can't feel anything. And then they're asleep while you're taking the skull off and exposing the brain. And then once you have the brain exposed, then you let them wake up. What we would do is you have a little stimulator, like a little electrode with a very low current. And you can have somebody talking and then you touch that part of the brain. And if they stop talking, then you know that part of the brain's important, right? Wow. There's a part of the brain called eloquent cortex. Those areas of the brain are speech centers, motor centers, visual centers. So if you did it asleep, you're guessing. You don't really know where those centers are. So you put a little marker on it. So that's how you map the brain out, knowing if you can take that part of the brain or not.
We think it's a material universe, but it isn't. It's an energy universe. And the material comes after the energy magnetism. So it's not a surprise. It's not random. It's not luck. It's that you've been generating energy for a long time, which creates a magnetic field, which just pulls you to your affinity, to exactly where you belong.
Rich when you have 25 times your annual spend. So if you can live on $1,000 a year, you are rich if you have $25,000. If your lifestyle takes $1 million a year, then you need $25 million to be rich.
At least 100 human bodies were found in this man's home just yesterday, and he had stolen these corpses from cemeteries. This is a very disturbing story, and it's a developing story that's just breaking. So this man is 34-year-old Jonathan Christian Gerlach. He is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this is the cemetery that he was stealing bodies from, Mount Moriah. Now, Mount Moriah Cemetery is infamous because it is sort of abandoned. I used to live in Philadelphia, and I actually filmed a video for my YouTube at this cemetery because it is so abandoned. I had never visited a place quite like this that was so overgrown, but the things found inside Jonathan's home were shocking. Like I said before, over 100 sets of human remains, human skulls, human skeletons, some of which belong to children. And this is a screenshot from the press conference earlier about this arrest. Prosecutors said that it was like walking into a house of horrors. Bones, skeletons lining the walls, and they stated that some of the skeletons are 200 plus years old. Locals recently had noticed a number of grave robbings taking place here at Mount Moriah, and so the police actually set up a sting operation. And lo and behold, a few days ago in the middle of the night in the complete darkness, the police caught Jonathan. And when they apprehended Jonathan, they found that he had a bag on him containing 30 sets of human remains. And it's a little unclear in the reporting, but they stated that these were the skeletons of children. I don't know if these were all children's bodies he had been stealing, but nonetheless, it was a gruesome discovery. Authorities also announced that they found an additional 8 sets of human remains in a nearby storage unit. And because this is a developing story, they don't know how many bodies in total they're about to find. They don't know exactly who these skeletons belong to. They don't know how long they've been there. They also don't know if any of these skeletons were possible victims of this guy's. Those are all just questions that we have right now. And no motive has been released either. I don't know why this guy was stealing these remains. Nobody does. They haven't made any announcements relating to that. But the details of this case are just incredibly disturbing. It's just crazy because when I was actually in the Mount Moriah Cemetery filming my YouTube video, you could tell that this place would be an easy target for somebody like him because it was so abandoned. It was almost forgotten, completely overgrown, broken headstones, broken vaults. It's literally known as Philadelphia's Forgotten Cemetery. So I'm going to keep you guys updated on this because I am just as shocked as y'all are. and I am definitely eager to find out more about this case and the circumstances surrounding it.
Hey, throw Buddy under the jail, right? The disrespect.
A movie about a Freemason's journey to enlightenment. So what kicks off Truman's journey to enlightenment? The falling canister from the ceiling, labeled Sirius. Sirius is known as the morning star, the fallen angel, Lucifer the lightbringer, who brings knowledge to humanity. Represented by the blazing star, in Freemasonry sat between the two pillars of Yakin and Boaz. In this shot, we see the fallen star Sirius between two pillars that grabs Truman's attention, the two pillars being Yakin and Boaz. So Truman essentially receives esoteric knowledge from Sirius and begins to question his reality. We see that every outcome of Truman's life is being governed by what some might call an overbearing father, or the Gnostic demiurge, which in this case is given the name of Christoph, or Christ of, or of Christ. When Truman finally breaks free of this controlling deity, he ascends up the Masonic steps toward self-governance. Here we can see 16 steps, as well as the waters below, as above so below, with what we can assume is the reflection of the waters below. That would total 32 steps, or 32 degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Obviously the 33rd degree being the most notable, however this is a more symbolic, honorary, invite-only degree. No initiate can get there through just Masonic scholarship. It is the Gnostic perspective that the material world is a trap, an illusion, a prison of sorts, governed and controlled by a lower creator, a more malevolent version of the god archetype, or grand architect. And that to escape this material illusion, one must break free through enlightenment and self-gnosis. Some say the G in Masonry stands for gnosis or Gnosticism. However, that's one of many interpretations that include grand architect, generative principle, Jesu or Jesuit general, God, goat, geometry, and others. And so Truman undergoes this journey of Gnostic enlightenment and breaks free of his controlling father. Also, someone interesting that Richard Rothschild was one of the producers of this film. Shout out to him.
Hey, that's just more evidence that we're watching these movies and these TV shows, and we give these generic responses as to what we think the movie was about. Whole time, the movie's about something way deeper than our brains are comprehending at that moment.
This is the first picture the world has ever seen where Putin, Xi Jinping, and Kim Jong-un are all together. And the significance of this gathering cannot be understated. Today, we witness China put on the largest military parade in their history. All major roads were closed, schools were shut down, and they even had weeks of midnight rehearsals and security preparations to make sure that today went off without a hitch. One by one, world leaders started arriving, most of which are the names that you would expect, like Kim, Putin, etc. In fact, for good old Kim, it took him 20 hours just to get to China, because he got there on his infamous slow armored bulletproof train, traveling between only 45 and 80 kilometers an hour. However, also attending were world leaders that in the past few decades, they lent more to the West, like Turkey, Egypt, and Vietnam. In fact, no Western leaders attended apart from two. We're looking at you, Serbia and Slovakia. And when Donald Trump saw that Putin, Kim, and Xi were having a 2.5-hour private closed-door meeting, he tweeted this: "May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States." Now, it wasn't just what they spoke about that will be of concern of Western leaders watching. It'll also be the new weapons that China unveiled. These included new powerful laser weapons capable of taking out swarms of drones, burning electronics, or even blinding pilots, new nuclear ballistic missiles with a range capable of striking US mainland, giant underwater unmanned drones, and also a number of weapons which display China's heavy investment in the future of warfare.
Definitely when Trump leaves those type of messages, it kind of gives us an insight into what really goes down when they have these big meetings. They're all playing chess. They don't really believe or trust in each other, but they're playing nice for the people.
Scientists just found out that our brains might have evolved to be as capable as they are because of this, our gut microbiome, giving us new meaning to the term gut instinct.
You're the stomach.
For centuries, the evolution of the human brain has been a bit of a mystery. Our brains are enormous, energy-hungry organs compared to other primates, using about 20% of our total daily energy while making up just 2% of our body weight. But we've struggled to explain exactly how early humans managed to fuel these organs. Now, in a new study in PNAS, everyone's favourite journal name, researchers from Northwestern University took germ-free mice, the cleanliest of all rodentia, born with no microbes at all, and colonised them with the gut microbiota from different primates, humans, squirrel monkeys, or macaques. Then they looked at what what happened inside the mice's brain. After 11 weeks, the team analyzed over 11,000 genes in the mice's frontal cortex, and they found that the mice given human and squirrel monkey gut microbes started expressing brain genes in patterns that looked more human-like, especially compared to the mice given the macaque microbes. These genes in particular were involved in energy production, especially oxidative phosphorylation, the process neurons use to turn glucose into ATP. That means these neurons became better biologically equipped to generate more usable energy more consistently and at higher demand. Meanwhile, mice given small-brained, no offense, macaque microbiome showed higher expression of gene networks linked to synaptic signaling and transmembrane transport, systems involved in basic neural communication rather than energy expansion. Interestingly, many of these genes elevated in the macaque microbiome mice overlap with the gene sets implicated in neurodevelopmental and psychiatric disorders, including ADHD and schizophrenia when they are dysregulated in humans. We often think of the brain being the pilot flying the body, using it to keep it safe, but it might be that gut bacteria optimized for keeping themselves alive by supercharging our brains to be more intelligent defenders. If you like science and just realize we might not be the ones running the show,
I am Krang, the all-powerful.
Follow for more.
Climbing Mount Everest is now a luxury experience with private chefs, movie theaters, and a lot more, if you're rich enough, that is. Most climbers spend a week hiking up 17,000 feet to base camp and sleeping in cold tents, but the mega wealthy get a different experience. First, they skip the hike and get flown straight into base camp by helicopter. They are allowed 440 pounds of personal items, carried by porters, of course. They stay in massive heated tents with electricity, internet, TVs, and private bathrooms. They even have private chefs making gourmet meals, baristas for coffee, and access to a full bar. And if that wasn't enough, there is a spa tent where they can get massages. It all comes with a personal photographer so you can show your friends how hard the trip was, and when you're done, the Sherpas pop champagne, pretend you did an amazing job, and you get flown back down.
What I learned about factory resetting your phone as a federal prosecutor is that resetting your phone doesn't delete the story, and sometimes it makes it clearer. When I was a federal prosecutor, I learned something about factory reset that most people don't realize. A reset doesn't look like nothing. It looks like a moment in time. Some digital extraction software can show that a reset happened. So not your photos, not your messages, but a reset. And that reset becomes data because investigators don't just look at what's on your phone, they build timelines. They look at when activity stops, they look at gaps, they look at what happened right before everything disappeared. So if a phone is factory reset right after contact with law enforcement or right before an arrest, that timing matters. It doesn't automatically prove guilt, but it absolutely creates more questions. And here's the part people miss. A reset does not delete context. It creates a before and after. That's why factory resetting your phone isn't the clean slate that people think it is, and why it's so important that everyone understands digital evidence just as well as prosecutors do. If this surprises you, you do not understand phone evidence yet. So save this and send it to a friend because phone evidence is more important than you think.
Hey, for all the geniuses in the back that thought they were doing something when they reset their phone.
One of the most suspicious things that happened yesterday in Minnesota, in my opinion, is this guy. The guy who burned the American flag in front of everyone. Now, after he did this, he immediately left like it was nobody's business. Now, why would someone burn up a flag, rile them up, make them protest, and just sneak away? A girl followed him, recorded him, asked him a bunch of questions, and just check this out.
You wouldn't have ran off. That's weird. Because we need people to see that that's happening. Well, why would you run off? Why would you run off? That's weird to burn a flag and run off. That doesn't make sense. That's not a protest.
Why are you not back there at the protest? We got everybody riled up. You came here to do what? Do a boogaloo boy? An accelerationist? What are you doing here?
Usually these people are proud to protest and tell them where they're from.
Where you from? Why are you here?
Yeah, we know. We remember George Floyd, so we know you guys are around.
Hey, fuck your flag burning, dude. That was fucked up.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
Not happening. He doesn't even know where the f he is. He doesn't even know where the car is. What?
Why are you hiding your face, huh? Why you got your glasses on? You think you're some covert fucking like ninja or something, bro? Cosplaying out here?
Yeah, we need to know who the hell this guy is.
People are definitely waking up to the weird stuff, man. You can't just start doing weird stuff without people questioning nowadays.
Well, it's happened, guys.
Take a look at this. A federal court quietly ruled that the government can force any medical intervention on you with no evidence or judicial review. Almost no one noticed. The Ninth Circuit said as long as officials say public health, courts shouldn't question them. But we just fought back. We just petitioned the Supreme Court to review this unprecedented ruling. This may become the most consequential Supreme Court case of the 21st century. This case is not just about the COVID crisis, said the HFDF president and founder Leslie Manookian. Okay. It's about the future of liberty in America. Nicole Shanahan called the Ninth Circuit's ruling terrifying. She's right. The circuit court's ruling threatens to make COVID-era tyranny the new normal. Now, I have the entire briefing about this, but let me play this. I actually have something with Nicole Shanahan actually talking about it.
And by definition, can they even be called a vaccine if they don't stop the spread? Right?
Well, did you hear about what happened for Health Freedom Defense Fund last week? I don't know if you're aware of this.
No, I'm not too familiar with your organization. I've heard a little bit about it, but yeah, tell us, share.
So I mentioned that we had sued the Los Angeles Unified School District in 2021. Well, we sued them twice in 2021 because first we sued them over mandating the shot when it was EUA, and then they basically duped the court into believing that they weren't going to issue a mandate because they had repealed their first one, rescinded it. And then, so the court dismissed the case and said, look, there's nothing for us to adjudicate at this point. The case is no longer ripe. We're not going to deal with it. We're dismissing the case. 17 days later, LAUSD implemented a new mandate saying that employees could not test, and it fired, a couple of weeks later, 500 employees. It went on to fire or displace more than 1,000 in total. And it denied, it said, well, we accept your religious exemption or your medical exemption, but they refused to accommodate them. So they pushed them out. People were pushed out. No pensions. They lost their seniority. They lost everything. They were fired. They lost their jobs. I mean, it was really outrageous. So we filed another lawsuit in November of 2021. And in this case, we argued that the shots do not stop transmission or infection. And we knew this because CDC said that in late July of 2021. And CMS confirmed that. Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services confirmed that in, I believe it was October of 2021. And so if they don't stop transmission or infection, we argued, then they are not a public health issue. They are therapeutic, they are a private matter, and they must be treated as such. We also argued that natural immunity is real and that the Supreme Court case from 1905 called Jacobson versus Massachusetts doesn't apply because Jacobson was predicated on the Supreme Court's assumption that the smallpox vaccination was safe and effective because it had been in use for many, many years.
I don't usually care about UFO theories, but this one made me stop scrolling. The public has just bet over $17 million that UFO files will be released by Donald Trump by 2026. This is according to the Poly Market, which is basically a public accounting for people betting on certain topics and likelihood of things to happen.
Scientists just discovered something wild about meditation. Here's what they did. They recruited 23 experienced meditators. Those are people with an average of almost 4,000 hours of meditation experience. And they scanned their brain twice. Once when their mind was just wandering, and once during a focused meditation, where they just focused on the sensation of breathing. Incredibly, when they compared these two conditions, the flow of cerebrospinal fluid through a narrow channel in the brain called the cerebral aqueduct started flowing more efficiently in one direction. And critically, that's the exact opposite of what happens as you age or develop neurodegeneration, where the flow of fluid through this channel gets more chaotic and kind of back and forth. With meditation, that flow becomes more organized, similar to what you see in younger, healthier brains. And that could partly explain why meditation has so many health benefits and can help mitigate some of the effects of brain aging and might even protect against some neurological conditions. And it's yet another reason why I am trying to make a habit of meditating every single day, even if just for a few minutes.
Man, it's getting creepy out there, man. Well, you guys say that's another one in the books. It's definitely getting creepy out there, but we're keeping our eye on every bit of it. Make sure to smash that like button for me. That helps the video out and this channel. Smash that subscribe button. We're going to run it up this year, and I will definitely catch you on the next one.